Welcome. I am Agnes Masnick, the Northeastern Regional Economic Development Manager for DCEO. Thank you for joining us today for the Equitable Small Business and Workforce Resources with Pride webinar in celebration and recognition of Pride Month in Illinois. Today we will talk about Illinois' commitment to being a leader in equality, and we are joined by our esteemed panelists who will share resources available to businesses and workers with a focus on outreach to LGBTQ+ business owners. We are joined by the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulations Division of Banking, the Champaign County EDC Small Business Development and International Trade Center, and finally, the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, or DCEO. We will discuss how to reduce barriers to banking, professional licensing, workforce development, and how the state of Illinois offers many resources that can be leveraged to support the growth and advancement of the LGBTQIA+ businesses and workforce. And now it is my pleasure to introduce you to DCEO Statewide Latinx Business Development Manager, Deanna Alfaro, who will serve as your moderator for this morning. Deanna works for the Office of Minority and Economic Empowerment, OME, who supports marginalized business owners. Deanna has been steadfast in her outreach to support Latinx and LGBTQIA+ business owners and workers, helping them understand the resources the state provides. The mic is yours, Deanna.
Thank you so much, Agnes. Happy Pride, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I have the distinct honor of serving as your moderator. As Agnes mentioned, I am Deanna Alfaro, and I work in the Office of Minority and Economic Empowerment, also known as OME. I'm going to just go ahead and dive us in so we can get into this very powerful discussion that we're going to have today. I want to introduce our panelists. We have Mariel Usaga from the Small Business Development Center, Champaign County EDC Economic Development. We also have Chasse Rehwinkel from the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation, also known as IDFPR, from the Division of Banking, as Agnes mentioned earlier today. And we also have Julio Rodriguez, who serves as our Deputy Director of Office of Employment and Training at the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, DCEO. Let's go ahead and just start off with each of you just sharing a bit of who you are and what you do. Mariel, we'll start with you.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Mariel Wasanga. I'm the Director of the Small Business Development Center and the International Trade Center here in Champaign. We're hosted by the Champaign County Economic Development Corporation. Our main job is to provide assistance to business owners and entrepreneurs here, whether they're operating locally or they are either exporting, importing, or willing to take on any type of international venture or expansion. So that's I am a native from Peru. I moved here to the U.S. about 5 years ago, and I've been here in Champaign, Illinois, for about 4 years or so. I recently graduated with an MBA from the University of Illinois here in Urbana-Champaign, and I'm about to pursue a PhD. So probably going to stay in this community for quite some time.
Thank you so much, Maya. And just a fun fact, not only are you University of Peru, Maya speaks like several different languages. It's amazing the amount of languages she knows how to speak. So thank you so much for being with us this morning. Chasse, if you want to go ahead and just share a little bit of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate the invite to talk today. My name is Chasse Rehwinkel. I'm the Director of Banking here for the state of Illinois at IDFPR. I was appointed in 2019. Before that, I was the director or the chief economist for the Illinois Comptroller, and before that, I was the policy director for the state treasurer. I've worked mostly in the public finance sphere, and my focus has been on equity. We passed the State Community Reinvestment Act in 2020. and we're implementing that now. And we've been working on a series of programs to strengthen equity in the banking community since I was appointed. So excited to have a good discussion.
Thank you so much, Chase, for being with us today. Julio, do you want to share a little bit of who you are and what you do?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Julio Rodriguez. I am the Deputy Director for the Office of Employment and Training at the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, or as everyone calls us, DCEO. And I oversee a number of programs related to a workforce. One of those programs is the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which funds 22 local workforce areas throughout the state of Illinois. As an example, Cook County being one of them. They're our largest local workforce area, and they in turn fund community-based organizations who provide job training and job placement and career services to adults who've been long-term unemployed, people who've lost their jobs by no fault of their own, and youth between the ages of 14 and 24. We also provide services to people whose jobs were lost as a result of foreign investment or as a result of offshoring jobs. That's called our trade program. We also have a program called the Job Training and Education Development Act, or JTED. That program is actually brand new. We had funded that program several years ago. That program specifically reaches out to a variety of different populations like the LGBTQ+, to really look at what are the barriers that prevent that community from really being able to get into a career path in high growth, high wage industries. And then most recently, we are now working with the Clean Energy Jobs Act, and we will be starting 7 different workforce programs targeted at low-income communities who've been disproportionately impacted both historically and currently as a result of both disinvestment and not being able to really fully participate in a recovery. So those are just some of the programs that we offer. We offer a lot of services to employers, everything from virtual job fairs to upskilling current workers through what we call our incumbent worker programs. So I'm excited for being here. I'm excited to have this conversation. And I'm also Puerto Rican and openly gay, and started a nonprofit called ALMA, the Association of Latinos and Latinas Motivating Action. We are one of the oldest organizations in the Midwest and in the nation.
I learned something new about you, Julio. I didn't know you were one of the founders. Thank you for sharing all that helpful information. We're definitely going to dive in a little bit more of what Julio, Chase, and Maria had mentioned. We do want to make this a very engaging conversation. We're also on Facebook Live. We're also recording this webinar. Feel free to put questions in the chat. Feel free to put questions on Facebook. We will have a Q&A. But I'm going to go ahead and just start us off with some questions to just get the conversation going. Mariel, according to the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce, there's an estimated 1.4 million LGBT business owners contributing over $1.7 trillion a year in revenue to the U.S. economy. It's significant, the impact of the LGBT-owned businesses. Can you share with us what resources does the Small Business Development Center, also known as Sbdc, have to support LGBT-owned businesses in Illinois?
Yeah, we actually have a very wide range of resources available for any small business owner or any entrepreneur. We, aside from being able to offer counseling in basically 5 languages, so we try to be inclusive in that sense. We're offering several tools and databases that otherwise would involve a significant financial investment for the client. For example, one of them is life plan. So that's a very known tool that assists entrepreneurs in putting together a business plan. It's a business plan creator. And it makes it's very user friendly. It makes it extremely easy by step by step and putting videos. So any entrepreneur, even without a strong business background, can develop a comprehensive business plan. So that is a tool that we have available for small businesses to use at no cost. We also assist them in finding financing options for their venture, whether that is through the Small Business Administration, their guaranteed loans, or microloans available within the state, within the community. One of them being DreamXCU, which is an initiative we have within our office. We have partnered with Kiva and DreamX America, and we assist minority-owned businesses in getting a microloan of up to $50,000, and it's a highly accessible loan with no interest and no fees. And I think the biggest advantage of this is that we do not require any type of credit history or financial performance or credit score in order to be qualified. So so we get a very large range of resources. We can help you with marketing. We can help you with logistics. Basically anything you need to plan and run a successful business, we can assist you with, whether it's within our office or connect you with the right resources so you can be successful in that sense.
Thank you much for sharing that. I think that's something extremely helpful for individuals to know, is that there is this, at no cost to you, centers that can assist your business owners with all these type of services that Mayed was just sharing. And just for everyone to know, is there's like 40 centers throughout the state of Illinois. So Mayed is representing Champaign County. She's out of that location, but there are centers throughout the state. So if you are interested in getting more information for your business or assistance with some of the programs that Mayed had just mentioned, there's definitely centers throughout the state of Illinois that can assist you with that. Now shifting to a little bit to banking. Chase, this question's for you. One of the biggest barriers to marginalized businesses like LGBT plus owned businesses is banking. Many times they do not have those banking relationships. They don't. They have a banking account, but they don't have those actual banker relationships with individuals. They don't have the requested credit score, etc. What is IDFPR doing to reduce barriers to banking?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's not just LGBT groups that suffer in this area. A lot of groups that have traditionally not been part of the banking community or had that connection to those banking communities struggle to get small business loans from the traditional banking outlets. If you're starting a small business in the United States, your number one source of funding is usually a bank or a credit union for your financing, and really it's banks. And that's tough when the circulatory system of the economy is banking and you don't have those relationships. It can be very challenging to build those connections. But I think for most small businesses, the banks they think of when they're trying to approach without really a background in terms of understanding banking or the banking system is some of the larger banks that they're aware of, some of the national banks that we're all familiar with that are massive and have lots of branches throughout the United States and maybe aren't giving the individual attention that you might get from maybe a smaller bank. In Illinois, we're really lucky. We have the second most banks, state chartered banks in the country, only behind Texas. We have just about 300 state chartered banks, most of them community sized, and most of them are really focused on trying to provide services to just their small area. And that competition has made it so that they're looking for any community that's been left out. And part of our move with the Community Reinvestment Act is to elevate those those projects to show where communities are being underserved, and so that some of our state chartered banks can go into those and start lending in fair and equitable ways. We also want to chat and have conversations with our banks here in the state to make them aware of these communities, that these are good investments, that these are good businesses that are bedrocks to their areas in their communities. And that really comes from leadership at the top. Secretary Trado, he oversees all of IDFPR, which is a licensing hub for everything, and he jokes that IDFPR, we're one of the most pro LGBT groups because some of our directors, we have the most LGBT appointees here, not just the secretary, but myself in banking and also the real estate director, Lori Murphy. And so we've made a concerted effort to think about this holistically, how you get a license, but also on the banking front of how to communicate with our more maybe traditional, more conservative banks about, hey, these are good loans. And we need to introduce you to those communities. And more often than not, what speaks to bankers is, oh, can I make money off of this? Is this a good loan? And so as they get more comfortable with those, we'll see more LGBTQ business loans. And we want to just keep on that. A lot of that's education. A lot of that's education about, nomenclature, trans rights, things like that, that maybe that industry hasn't thought about in a long time, and we need to make sure that they know how to speak on the terms that make sense for our businesses, so that those loans can get out and they can be done in a fair and equitable way.
Thank you. And I didn't know Illinois was #2 out of the state. Look at that.
Yes.
That's awesome. That just shows that they're, as business owners, as individuals, there is a reach, right? There is a local community bank in your area that should not so far. I want to shift a little bit. I know we've been talking about business and banking, and we heard about, the significant impact LGBT businesses have in the U.S. economy. Julio, according to the National LGBT Chamber, certified LGBT-owned businesses have created more than 33,000 jobs, and it's growing, right? And that's only certified LGBT-owned businesses through that certification. That 33,000 is a small number to what LGBT-owned businesses are, creating jobs. Can you provide information on resources for LGBTQ plus workforce for individuals who are looking for more resources in that area?
Sure. Well, the first thing I want to point people to is our website called illinoisworknet.com. I would strongly suggest people go to illinoisworknet.com. Number one, they'll find a whole host of resources there. Deanna, are you putting that in the chat? Thank you. And what's great about that website is that it's actually a platform that will take you to multiple other resources. But you can find everything from how to put together a resume, not only the sort of standard sort of formats, but it'll give you examples. It will show you links to other places where you can learn more about how to put a resume together. It will also take you to videos. And then it also connects you to a variety of different resources that the state offers, whether that's unemployment insurance, whether it's connections to community colleges, whether it's connection to training programs where someone can take advantage of training options that are available throughout the state. And it'll also take you to our local workforce areas that I mentioned earlier. You can put your zip code and find out which local workforce area is closest to you and which providers are actually there to assist you. So as I said, we try to support people who've been unemployed, oftentimes folks who've really struggled over the years, either with just not being able to land the right job or just not to have the right skill sets in order for them to go on a career path. So part of what our role is really to focus on those folks that have had the biggest challenges to getting a job and going on to a career. The other thing that we try to do is we really work with companies to upskill workers who maybe been underskilled or underemployed. Give you a good example is, we've worked with a lot of hospitals in particular right now because there's a huge nursing shortage and allied health shortage. Well, they oftentimes have cafeteria workers, maintenance workers, CNAs who want to go on to more of a clinical occupation within a hospital. So we can provide training funds to upskill those individuals so they can actually go on to a career path within the actual clinical parts of a hospital. And we've been very successful in places like Peoria, in Little Village, in places like Southern Illinois. So we also try to do as much as we can to try to help people who are wanting to really get more on a career path and not just get a job. But we also have all the links to all the, on Illinois WorkNet, to all the job boards. So everything from Monster to Indeed to, to every so kind of thing that's available. We also offer opportunities for people to join virtual job fairs. And I will tell you, this has been particularly successful. And we have found that many women actually, we've had actually more women participate in our virtual job fairs. And I'm proud to say that it has been mostly African-American women who've been participating. And we also track the LGBTQ plus community. And we've seen more and more people actually take advantage of this. If organizations are interested in hosting like a virtual job fair or a job club in person, we've done that with the Center on Halsted, which is the LGBTQ community center here in the city of Chicago. But we've also done it with companies that are actually LGBTQ owned, who are looking for employees, so we can set up very specific job fairs for them, both in person or virtually. And I will tell you, one of the things with the virtual job fairs is they can get customized. We've done veterans job fairs. We've done job fairs for particular industries, such as the hospitality industry, restaurant industry. We've done them for particular occupations, so warehousing or logistics. But what we try to do is we really try to tailor a lot of our services either to the individual or to the employers that we work with. The other thing that we offer is for people that are in need of not only career services, but really want to get into training. Each of our local areas have training funds that if a person is eligible, they can help provide support for them to get into training programs. And in some instances, we can actually pay for someone to finish getting their bachelor's degree or their associate degree. And in some instances, if let's say you want to go into manufacturing and you're looking for some non-credit hours, but actually gets you certification so you can become a CNC operator or be somebody who's working in IT. Those positions don't oftentimes require a bachelor's degree or even an associate's degree. They just require a certification within that particular occupation. And we can provide support to get people into those types of jobs and pay for that training as well. But the other thing that we offer is also a variety of supportive services. So whether it's childcare, transportation, and maybe other kinds of supports that help a person, like, sometimes you don't even realize you're going to be starting a job. And let's just use the trades. And you need boots, you need all this equipment that you didn't even realize, and it can be expensive. So we also can provide support to be able to purchase those tools and resources to help you get on the job. So those are just some examples of different things that we help job seekers with. And we, as I said, we work for people who are looking for jobs, but we also look at trying to upgrade people who may want to get on a stronger career path. And we certainly want to help people get connected to all the kinds of resources they might need. So I'll leave it there and look forward to future questions.
Julio, I'm gonna just follow up real quick because you had mentioned a number of wonderful resources, right? Supplementing costs for education, assisting people with getting into the trades. My partner got into the trades and I couldn't believe how much money he was spending before he even started because he was buying those boots and steel pet and all this stuff. And I was like, wow, you were spending a lot of money to just start this job. Where you had mentioned the Illinois Workforce Portal, if someone needed assistance that supplement or training or assistance with, getting what they need before they get the job, where would you recommend that they go?
So they should go to the website, because then when they put their zip code, that'll connect them to one of the organizations that will provide those services to them. So they're called local workforce investment areas. So that's what they're looking for. So when they put in their zip codes, then as I said, there's 22 of them, but they also subcontract to community colleges and to community-based organizations. So to give you an example, in Chicago, so the local workforce area contracts with groups like the Chicago Urban League, like the Women in Trades, works with organizations like Instituto de Progreso Latino. They work with Harold Washington College, with Wright College, with Daly. So they have connections and contracts to have those organizations provide the direct services to individuals that are looking to get the kinds of programming that they're looking for. But yeah, so we have a pretty vast network throughout the state. And the one thing I should mention that I haven't yet is when you go down the Illinois WorkNet site, and if you're interested in particular apprenticeship programs, and oftentimes people are interested in particular the trades, but you should know that there are apprenticeship programs offered in a variety of different sectors, everything from healthcare to IT to transportation and logistics. And you can go on the Illinois WorkNet site and look up Apprenticeship Illinois, and it'll show you all the various programs that we have. And we do both pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs. And so if someone's in high school and wants to get into a pre-apprenticeship to kind of get dual credit and get work experience, that's one of the things that we're able to provide for youth, and have been very, very successful. We really want to, it used to be that workforce was very transactional. You need a job, we find you a job, and then we let you go. Now it's really about building careers, and we really try as much as we can to establish people on a career path as opposed to just placing them in a job.
Thank you. Mael, I want to come back to you and talk a little bit into funding. Funding is always really important. Business owners are always looking for funding opportunities. Funding for every stage of a business, from starting, expanding, staying open, is extremely critical. How does the Sbdc network work with businesses in keeping them informed of funding opportunities, and if possible, assisting them applying for those funding opportunities?
Yes, so there are multiple ways that we help in that sense. We have several webinars and just educational trainings that are available that we provide at no cost. Most of them are going to be related to starting operating your business. So funding is definitely one of the topics we discuss. Financial management also. We have webinars for that, and we also discuss funding opportunities. Another way is through our newsletters, and you can sign up for that on our website, which is cusbdc.org. And we, on a frequent basis, we provide updates on new programs that are available or new funding opportunities that they can take advantage of. Another source is just through one-on-one counseling meetings that we have with the client. With funding, I believe there's such a large range of resources, anywhere from loans, regular loans, SBA loans, micro loans, special funding opportunities like what I mentioned about Dream XU. Always lease grants. That's possibly what many business owners look for, but unfortunately they're extremely scarce and they're also very difficult to get. So I hardly ever talk about grants as one of the main sources of funding. So the best thing, in order to not overwhelm the clients with all the large amount of funding options that they have, sometimes I believe it's better to just do a one-on-one meeting, so that we can discuss their particular situations and their actual capital needs, and then we can put together a more curated list of funding options that they might be interested in. Also, there's a lot of other requirements that they plan to play that are important, right? Aside from the funds that you're needing, also your credit history, credit score, how much capital you can put towards the business from your own funds. So there are multiple other considerations that definitely play a very important part in the whole funding. issue. So sometimes we believe that it's a little bit more effective to do this meeting so that we can understand the specific situation of each business owner or each entrepreneur, and then we can put together a creative list of what we believe would be the best options that they have available given their specific situations.
Thank you for sharing that. I do want to mention that we work really closely with the Illinois Department of Commerce, DCEO, with Sbdc network. You know, with the pandemic, there was a lot of relief programs that came out. We worked really closely in making sure that the community knew about programs and then had that assistance. You could go to the Sbdc for assistance on those programs. I just wanted to just plug in real quick that our office has a number of programs coming down the pipeline. If you are a startup business that opened in 2020 or 2021, there is a grant coming down the pipeline to assist business owners that were impacted in the pandemic that are, you know, that opened in the last 2 years. And so, you know, staying connected on those new newsletters that Mariad was mentioning. If email's not your thing, because, you know, to each their own, you know, stay connected on social media. If you have social, follow the Sbdc network, follow DCEO, follow IDFPR, follow, you know, entities that are going to give you that information, so at least it could come on your newsfeed to keep you informed of what's happening and what's going on. There are other grants coming down the pipeline, so definitely stay connected, because I think that's really important. And staying with funding, I have another question on funding, but Julio, this is for you. What funding opportunities does the Office of Employment and Training have coming down the pipeline that will be available and has the potential to assist the LGBT+ workforce?
So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we have currently, particularly for LGBTQ businesses. So if a business is interested in, let's say, hiring individuals from a variety of different populations, they can actually get support through our on-the-job training programs. And those programs will actually pay, depending on the size of your company, up to 90% of a person's wages for the first 3 to 6 months as they get trained and acclimated to your job site. We also do customized training. So let's say you want a group of individuals that you're interested in hiring to actually learn a particular skill and get a particular credential. We can actually work with a community college or some other nonprofit who does training to be able to customize the kind of training you would want either new employees to have or existing employees to have. We also do incumbent worker training. So if you have staff that you want to upskill, we can work with you as well in that. And then another big benefit to an apprenticeship program is if for every apprentice that you start in your company, you can get up to $3,500 reimbursed for the training costs that you acquired. And if you look at like the LGBT population or other populations that are underrepresented in a particular sector or industry, that gives you an additional $1,500. So you'll have a $5,000 tax credit that you can apply to your business and to your costs associated with that apprentice that you bring on. So those are some things that we offer in terms of actual resources to a business that they can get as part of their being able to help training individuals. And then, as I mentioned, we have the individual training accounts, and those are for people who want to get training and want to go on to some type of a career path. And if you're eligible for those resources, you can get those. And then in terms of actual training that's coming down the pike, or not training, funding that's coming down the pike. So in order for you to receive funding through our office, you actually have to be a 501c3 and legally be able to actually get funds through the state of Illinois and be a registered either nonprofit or an education institution or some kind of entity that is legally able to receive public funds. So that's just to put that out there. So the way that we release our funds is through what we call a notice of funding opportunity, as we lovingly call NOFO. Not mofongo, NOFO. So for those of you who are of Caribbean or Puerto Rican descent, you'll know what I meant. But we anticipate that probably this fall, we will be putting out a series of NOFOs related to energy. And those will be everything from working with the reentry population, people who have been in, either been incarcerated or has had issues with the justice system. We will start pre-apprenticeships in the solar space. We will be looking at a variety of other programs related to people who, because we are moving to a more energy efficient economy, to newer energies, getting people retrained who may be in the fossil fuel industry and are going to be migrating to newer jobs within the clean energy space, being able to provide resources for that. But all of our funding will go to providers to provide those kinds of services, along with the career services that I already mentioned. But that's the process by which we actually put resources out to communities, is through this notice of funding opportunity. And right now we anticipate maybe doing another round of JTED in the fall, as well as putting out more energy grants, and potentially other types of training programs. We're actually looking at trying to look at things like early childhood education and providing grants to get more people into the early childhood education space. And I just met in Southern Illinois with a first time in the country, a business owner who started a food truck apprenticeship program to teach individuals how to actually own and develop their own food truck. And he's actually also working to feed people in food deserts. So he takes his food trucks and actually puts them in communities that don't have access to good food. And because he's literally Meals on Wheels, people who get SNAP benefits can actually purchase food using their SNAP card in order to do that. But it's exciting. That's the first time anyone has developed a specific training program to get people into the food truck industry. And as many of us know, it's a booming industry and continues to grow. And quite frankly, it's a little more cost effective for somebody who may be interested in the restaurant industry and wants to kind of start small. It's a good way to kind of get your feet wet. So.
Thank you so much, Julio. You shared so much information on different opportunities that, the Office of Employment and Training. I think that's one thing to keep in mind, that there are so many branches within our offices, right? Even with the Office of Employment and Training, you have all this, funding opportunities that are going to nonprofits, 501c3s. You have all these other apprenticeship programs. You have on the job training I mentioned, et cetera. And so keep that in mind. There's a number of different things that, as a business owner, as a worker, that you have access to. Chase, I wanted to ask you, IDFPR has done a lot of work in reducing barriers in obtaining professional licenses. Can you speak a bit to what you have all done and what you think is still needed in reducing those barriers?
Yeah, the main focus, I think, for Secretary Trado when he came on was first when he was real estate director, and then took over as secretary, was to kind of imbibe a policy of being more efficient at our license processes and being more equitable. And those pieces move together. When he was a real estate director, he vastly cut down the licensing time over in the real estate side, and that flows also to all the divisions. In banking, we don't have the same sort of licensing piece. We're more of chartering institutions and things like that. But we've tried to encourage unique institutions and kind of more outside the box thinking in terms of financial institutions. I'll explain why. As I said before, you're lending mostly for small businesses, home loans, things like that. That's going to come through your banks or your non-bank mortgage lenders. And if the people making the decisions on those loans and those business models don't understand or have any perspective of your life experience in the community that you come from, it's going to be difficult for them to have a new idea. But if you do have more people that come from different walks of life in those decision-making processes, then we get the new cool idea that nobody ever thought of before, because it's coming from a community that normally don't get those opportunities. We were very excited with our first de novo bank in more than 10 years, first new bank charter in the state of Illinois in 10 years, and that is First Women's Bank, which is in Chicago and has a focus on equitability within small business lending for women, among other groups, but that is one of their focuses. And we try to encourage more of those conversations to get some of that interest in, to get some more providers that way. Also talk, I'm on the road right now in Quincy, talk with our bankers about what they're seeing, what they're hearing, and ways that they can improve and get into communities that maybe they haven't thought about before. But, Secretary Trado really focused on trying to make sure that our licensing time was down, and some of those barriers to entry in that licensing time had been removed, so that it was easier for people that were maybe lower income or lower means, or it didn't come from highly educated communities, could get access to those important business certifications. The next step here is also to look at kind of some of the barriers, especially within the LGBT community, that might be because of unique pieces of our community. For trans individuals, there's a tremendous struggle around names, licensing, how to change some of that, making sure that those things are taken into account. And that was an item that I think is a real interest to myself, but I know as well as the secretary and the other directors in our division. The other pieces is to take a look at how we get more funding from a just general business perspective to LGBT businesses, certifications, things like that, to elevate those areas of need as places where some of the private funding can go. So we've been having conversations with a lot of advocacy groups, a lot of the LGBT chamber, things like that, to try to make sure that we're hearing them and listening to some of the barriers to entry that they're experiencing on the private side.
Thank you, Chase. I think that's really important, bringing, individuals to the table and making sure that, they're sharing their, their perspective, their opinions, et cetera. And so I think that's very valuable to making sure that we are reducing those barriers, right? Because we, as individuals that, in all our work, we see it one way, but when you're on the other side, you see it a completely different way. And so I think that's really important in trying to reduce those barriers that sometimes are there systematically, other times they're there, with no intention. You put wording in a certain way, et cetera. And so thank you so much. Last question go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think that's an important point for us to emphasize. There's usually two main forms of discrimination. There's purposeful, pointed discrimination, and then there's discrimination of ignorance. And those two both are barriers, and the ignorance piece often goes kind of unseen for a lot of times. And I think that's one of our roles here, not just on the funding side, but also on the licensing side.
Agreed. Last question before we open it to audience. We've had some questions come in. If you could share in about a minute or less. This question goes to all three of you. What does pride mean to you, and what is your advice for fellow LGBT plus community members? And we will start with Mahalia.
For me, pride is about a celebration of equality and inclusivity, and a reminder of mutual respect between one another, and to also be mindful that there's this population that has been traditionally underserved, especially for in the business community. So it's extremely important to keep that in mind and to continue to do as much outreach as possible in order to improve that service and the bandwidth for them.
Thank you. Chase?
think-
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to repeat the question, but
Yeah. No, I've thought about this actually a lot since, especially this year. I think there's a lot of outside concerns. And I know that there's a lot of people that are very scared, both in the LGBT community and otherwise. I think I didn't realize this until I was appointed here, that pride is not just being prideful in our community and of the things that we do and the relationships that we build, but also leading by example and showing that there are paths that you might not think exist otherwise. I know that there are a lot of LGBT children across the country that are worried every day about everything. I've been there. I know a lot of people have been there that are on this webinar and on this distinguished panel. And it's our job now as kind of leaders in the government space and also community members to show them, hey, it's going to work out. Like there are paths for you. That we are thinking about your future and are going to try to make it better, even if it seems dark right now. So that's one of the things pride means to me.
thank you, Chase. Julio?
Yeah, and for me, pride is about visibility. As somebody who has been out in government and, has been out most of my professional career, or at least almost half of it, to me, it is so important in the workplace in particular, whether you're a business owner, whether you're an employee, is that we're not afraid to be who we are. Being Latino and being gay, those are not two distinction. I can't put myself in a box one day to be one thing and then come out as another. So for me, it's about the intersectionality of being my full self. And I think for employers, in particular for LGBTQ people, you need to really encourage folks to not be afraid to be their full selves and to bring their full selves to the workplace. And to me, that's what pride is about. It's about letting people know that when you think of the LGBTQ community, it's not one demographic, it's not one geography, it's not one language, but we are a multitude of everything that the human experience has to offer. So we're women with children, we're fathers, we're brothers, we're sisters, we're business owners. And I think that's what pride means to me. It's about reminding people that we're here, we're visible, and we represent all walks of life.
Thank you so much. We have a couple of questions that came in and a comment in Facebook. Someone was like, great resource with the Illinois Workforce Portal. I think they clicked on it. So first question that we receive is, does Illinois collect reporting on diverse spending for LGBT-owned businesses? Does anybody know?
I'm not aware that we do.
I'm not either. I know in DCEO we started in OMI we started tracking now when in registrations for webinars and other things, tracking LGBT-owned businesses. I think Julio, you mentioned your office is doing something similar in one of your responses. You're starting to track. But in regards to spending, I don't think we are yet, but I'm gonna look into that a little bit.
I can
I will tell you that in terms of overall funding, we are not at a level across state agencies in terms of providing at least a level of funding based on what the population size is in Illinois. And I can just tell you from workforce, we do not actually have any program that is specifically dedicated to LGBTQ issues. And so I am definitely, whenever we put out funding opportunities, I encourage folks to apply, especially nonprofits or organizations that are specifically working with the LGBTQ community, because it is truly underrepresented in terms of at least the workforce services.
Chase, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I it's not through my banking hat, but my old comptroller world. And this is prior to this administration. My information is a bit older, but I know it wasn't something that was done in the previous administration or any administration really before then. It was a discussion point about trying to track funding, and I think that's a good idea. I'm sure there are folks that are focused on trying to think about that right now. From the the licensing side, that's also something we're thinking about is how do we devote more resources specifically to this community.
Thank you for sharing that. We have another question. Said, good morning. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I have not yet created my company. I would like to start the training and advice from scratch. What's the link to register, and is it possible to do it online or in person? So it looks like, Yasmin, that you're looking to start a business, but you're looking for that assistance on how to go about that. Marielle, do you want to take that one? I feel like that's a Sbdc one.
Yeah, sure. If you go to our website, I'm gonna share right here. CUSBDC.org. Yeah, put it on the chat. There is a on the top, there's a button that says become a client. It's 100% free and confidential, so you can register. As soon as we get your registration, we'll be contacting you. Right now, our office specifically is working remotely, so we can do either a phone call or a Zoom meeting. Like Deanna mentioned at the beginning, we have several centers all around the state of Illinois. So if you're located in the central Illinois region, likely that we are going to be able to serve you. Otherwise, if you're located somewhere in Chicagoland or down the south or in Western Illinois, your application might go to a center that is nearby, that is closest to your location. So either way, we're a pretty strong network, and our advisors and directors all around the state are extremely experienced, and they will be able to provide, no matter what center is ultimately going to be serving you, will be able to provide all the assistance that you need. And regarding staying up to date to what our center specifically is offering, if you scroll down all the way to the bottom of our website, you'll find a link that says sign up today. It's for our newsletter. And if you go to the tab that says events, it has a calendar of all our upcoming webinars and workshops that we have available. Like I mentioned, everything provided from our office is going to be at no cost to you. And so we're looking forward to serving you. Thank you.
Thank you, Meredith. I also put in the chat a very helpful link to our first stop at DCEO, created a handbook on how to start a business in Illinois, and it walks you through information and like structure, licensing. It gives you more information on how to connect to the Small Business Development Center, etc. And so I put it in the chat, and I am putting it on Facebook Live now as well for those that are joining us there. Feel free to look at that handbook because that really gives you more information on how to start a business in Illinois. I apologize for any questions that we didn't get a chance to answer. We're 1 minute to time, so I apologize for that. If you have a question, feel free to email it and I'll try to get you that answer. Thank you all so much for being with us today. Thank you, Julio, Chase, Maya, Agnes, and happy Pride, everyone. Talk to you all soon.
Bye-bye.